What's up, motherfuckers? Welcome to the first inaugural episode of Digibro's Compression Chamber, a podcast about nothing in which I attempt to relax, as relaxing is against my nature. You know, I'm one of those guys, you probably hear us talk about our plight all the time. I know I hear Jesse talk about it all the time. I'm one of those guys who tends to make everything into a project. Every time I get an idea in my head, it spirals out of control and becomes a thing. And thankfully, unlike Jesse, my projects are never something that's going to take me a whole month to do. It's more like I get constant ideas for little projects, and I just burn through them as fast as I possibly can. And if I don't burn through them fast enough, they just get left by the wayside. If a project's too big for those couple of days when I'm excited about it, or if it just takes a little bit too much mental energy, it's gonna fall by the wayside, you know? It's so hard for me to have to just like to try to just do things at a normal rate, to just, you know, take a few days to get something done if it needs it, or hold off on the next idea until the time comes, you know? Just instead it's like this constant, like, the second I come up with the next thing, the last thing has to be over so I can work on the next thing, and then I don't know where I am anymore after a little while. I'll guide you through what this is like in a moment. But just to explain the nature of this podcast, you know, I'm laying on the couch with a beer. I encourage you to do the same, to imitate me in this podcast. And I'm just trying to decompress. You know, I used to sort of do this on Digibros, which is a show, my Let's Play show, my Let's Play channel, that hasn't been very active lately, because it used to be that me and my brother Victor would get together every week or two, and we'd talk about all the stuff that was going in our lives over the course of the, you know, the time we'd been apart. But Victor is almost never around anymore. Since our parents moved out at the start of September, Victor has mostly been at his girlfriend Hope's house. He's probably going to be moving in with her, like, you know, next year at some point. He mostly uses our house as like a studio space. He comes here to work on editing and stuff anytime he has like a, you know, he needs to get work done or something, but he barely ever is just hanging out here. So I don't see him a whole lot, and you know, we keep saying we're gonna do another Digibros because we've had like a month of non-stop things happening that we could talk about, but it hasn't been happening. But you know, even then, with that show, it's like there's a difference between the way you talk about something to get it off your chest and the way you talk about something to another person, you know. And with Victor, there's a certain security in that I've known him my whole life, and nothing I could possibly say would surprise him or would make him want to comment on it, you know. Victor has a very like standoffish approach to my life. If I tell him something that's going on with me, he doesn't try to give me any advice. He doesn't try to like analyze it in any way. He's just like, yeah, that sure is a thing that happened, you know. And that makes him easier to talk to in that way. But even then, you know, it's still a person who I'm trying to present things to in like the story-like way. You know, the way I talk on Digibros is very heightened, like I'm trying to be entertaining or to put a spin on the story. That's not what this podcast is about. This podcast is being recorded in such a way that it's as though there is no audience. I've even played with the idea of turning off comments for these videos, but I do actually want to know how people think of the show itself, you know, if not particularly of the topics at hand. But you know, I think that when I do a podcast with another person, or even when I do a vlog, there's a certain like level of putting on airs. There's a certain level of trying to find the perfect words and describe everything in a way that's gonna, you know, make the most sense to the other person, as opposed to just like decompressing. I don't want to use the word venting, because this isn't about being angry or like stressed out. I actually feel really good right now. the reason I need to decompress is that there's just so much I'm doing and so much going on that, like, I need a moment, you know? And for me, taking a moment is near impossible. Like, how can I possibly take a moment that I'm not, like, working on anything? It's hard to justify to myself. It's like when I, you know, usually I'll go for a walk or something, but those aren't really to decompress so much as usually it's because I'm trying to think of more things to do. Like, I'll go for a walk because I need the next video to write and I'm trying to come up with an idea. And then, like, while I'm out on that walk, then, you know, if at some point I finally come up with an idea, then I'll, like, rush home to get it done. You know, like, I won't walk as long if I come up with something I really want to do in before the walk is over. But, like, I'm constantly searching for the next idea. I'm constantly, like, beating myself over the head to come up with something, as opposed to just, like, chilling out for a second and, like, you know, maybe reveling in what I have done. You know, I have a tendency, I will do things like, you know, a video comes out, I feel accomplished, I go out, buy something to eat to celebrate, you know. And I do have moments, like, when a big thing happens that I cool off. But I think that there's possibly some bad behavior being instigated by that, and I'm gonna get into why when I describe my past week, because I've kind of been building up to, like, why I need to decompress. So this past, oh my god, it's almost 2 weeks actually, now that I'm realizing it. The past week and a half to 2 weeks has been one of the most productive periods of my entire life. Now, I'm someone who generally bounces between periods of insane productivity and periods of productivity. And usually those periods of productivity involves a lot of socializing. Usually if I'm not getting a lot of stuff done, it's because I'm spending a lot of time with other people, or I'm trying to set up something, you know, something complicated. Usually it's because I'm doing something else other than work, and I don't have enough good ideas to drag me back to work. But as soon as those good ideas come, as soon as I get inspired again, I come rushing back. So here's what's been inspiring so much in the last couple weeks. You know, me and Devu, we were starting to work on videos together towards the end of September. We'd taken sort of a long break. We had RadCon, you know, we had a lot of stuff going on. We were trying to get ourselves sorted out. And then we pumped out these 2 videos at the end of September, and I felt really good about that. So then we got to work on the next one, which is Akiyuki Shinbo in the 90s, which is a project that I'd had on hold for like a whole year. I'd started it at the end of 2015, and I thought there was no way I'd be willing to edit it myself, because I was going to edit it myself at the time, and like just the thought of how much effort it was going to take, which the kind of editing that it is the kind of stuff that Devu is just really good at. I don't know how, I literally don't know how he edits these so fast. Like, he's most of the way through part 2 after about a day and a half, and like he keeps like assuring me, oh, don't worry, I'm almost done and stuff. I'm like, I'm not worried, I can't believe you're working this fast, you know. It's incredible how fast he can find all the specific examples that are needed for something. But what made it possible is that he, like, because the reason I wasn't going to ask him to do it is because there's a lot of stuff you have to watch for this. And, you know, at the time that I was working on it, he wasn't on my full-time payroll yet. But the biggest thing is that he would have to watch all of Yu Yu Hakusho, which is 112 episodes. It just so happened that he ended up doing that anyway. Him and his brother went ahead and just watched Yu Yu Hakusho for the hell of it. And then I was like, oh my god, if you've seen all of Yu Yu Hakusho, then you're already halfway done with everything you need to watch. More than halfway done for Shinbo in the 90s. So took the project off hiatus, and the two of us, you know, jammed it out. I got the whole thing written. He's almost done editing it. You know, he had taken... He went on like a weird little sabbatical for a few days because he went down what he calls a video game hole, where he, every once in a while, he remembers that he's really obsessed with video games, and then he just like doesn't do anything but think about how badly he wants to make games, and then he kind of like snaps out of it when he runs out of money or something. And so so he gets back to work on anime videos. But yeah, so while he was doing that though, we had come up with this idea where I was like, what if we made a, what if, he was talking about how in 2014, I put out a video every single day for a month, for the month of October. It was a challenge to myself that had a few purposes. One was because I'd already written most of the 8 Nights of Kara no Kyokai series, and so I felt like I had a good foot in the door if I wanted to do it. I wanted to do some kind of challenge video thing, and I also wanted to have more anime videos on my channel, because I was concerned with the fact that, you know, in order to really have a rapport with a reviewer, you need to really know a lot of their opinions. You can't really get a sense of how you feel about someone's stance on things if you don't know their stance on things. So I wanted to review a lot of anime in a short period of time so people would get a better sense of my tastes and just how I write and stuff like that. So all of that sort of culminated in this thing, and in order to make it happen, I made bets with everyone I know, basically. I got everyone to put in money against me on whether or not I could finish this in a month. With the caveat being that each video was supposed to be of a level of quality that it could be patroned if I wanted to, though I did not patron most of them, and some of them were definitely not of that level of quality. But nonetheless, I did do it. I did a video every day for a month in October, and it was a big, cool thing. And it's funny because I've never really gotten a lot of credit for it because my channel was fairly small at the time, and like, not so much in subscriber count, but people weren't watching my videos because I was pretty new to anime, and I didn't have a lot of followers who cared about anime that deeply, and I had a lot of stuff that I was talking about that nobody cared about. So I don't think anybody watched like every video that month except probably the Devu, you know, who at that point had just started working for me as an editor. He got a couple of those videos edited himself. And a couple of my biggest videos came out that month, like back to back, what is anime and what isn't, and Sword Art Online Sucks Part 1 came out that month. Anyways, point being, he wanted to try to do that again, like, you know, with him editing and me writing, which would make it twice as easy to get it done. And I was like, well, a video every single day might be pushing it, because the quality definitely suffered in the previous attempt. You know, there's a lot of videos from that month that are not worth going back to, really. So I thought, well, what if we did one every other day, and the concept will be a novel worth of videos, because November's coming, and November is National Novel Writing Month. Now, I've been trying National Novel Writing Month every year since like 2006. I want to say I've been doing it a straight decade now. I succeeded in 2010. I wrote a novel. I never looked at it again after the month was over. Like, I wrote on the last day, I wrote 24,000 words. I wrote 1,000 words an hour for 24 hours, and that's how I finished my novel, because I hadn't touched it in like 2 weeks, and it was way behind, and I fucking just jammed it out in a day, and then never looked at it again because it was such a mess. The book was just so like full of plot holes and structural issues and bad writing that I just didn't look at it ever again. But all I cared about was that I had won NaNoWriMo, because I wrote 50,000 words in a month. So then last year, I wanted to do a novel in videos, but I didn't have any good ideas until like late into November, when I came up with the Asterisk War Sucks series, which did end up being a novel in videos, but I started writing it at like the very end of November and finished it around the end of December. So I think it might have been slightly over a month, and either way it wasn't, you know, I wasn't keeping track of it, basically. I wasn't keeping track of time. I didn't know it would be a novel length by the end. But it was great that it turned out that way. So then this month I thought, well, what if we just straight up do that? And so I wrote myself out a day-to-day calendar, like, of how, you know, the NaNoWriMo thing is that you have to write 1,667 words a day in order to hit 50,000 by the end of the month. Now, obviously, you can write as much in a day as you want to play catch-up if you need to. Currently, I have to catch up. I'm a few days behind, but I've been doing pretty well. Now, when I came up with this, I was like, okay, well, the concept is 15 videos, right? So 15 out of 50,000 is something like 3,500, something like that. I think maybe even 4,000. it's a lot of words for one video, because 15 videos at that would all have to be like basically between 15 and 20 minutes long is about the length that I would get from a 3,500 word post. So in order for that to happen, each of these videos would have to be pretty long for it to have to be a novel worth of videos. And so I started writing these posts and very quickly realized that they're not that long. They're probably closer to 10 minutes. So I've been doing a great job of keeping up with my daily quota of words, but I also am quickly realizing that I'm going to exceed 15 videos that I've written this month. So whether or not Devu ends up editing more or less, I don't know. All I know is I'm stacking up a backlog that's pretty fucking nice to look at right now. I wrote 6 posts in 5.5 days. I wrote 6 posts, all of which I love. All 6 of them I thought were great. I'm proud of all of them. They're all things from my bucket list. Like, basically, there's certain videos I've wanted to write for a very long time and just never, like, got around to it because of one reason or another. And then finally just, like, having the pressure of, like, alright, let's see if we can do it now. And every single day that I've written for this, I had started at, like, midnight, like, right, it was like 45 minutes before I would be out of time for the day, and I'm trying to catch up with the word count, you know. So I'm trying to crank these things out like 1,000 words to 1,500 words in an hour, and they're coming out great, like, because of it, because I'm just forcing myself to actually fucking write this thing that I've been thinking, I don't know how it's gonna be, I don't know how to structure it, and then, like, once you're in the moment and it's like, alright, let's just first sentence that comes to mind, fucking throw it down, and we'll go from there. You know, we'll structure it based on that, and that's been a great idea. So I wrote 6 videos that I'm really into. Then, so I've got that going on, and I'm on, like, you know, day 6. I'm kind of, I start a video that I don't really like. You know, I wrote a couple paragraphs, and I was like, this isn't going how I want it to go. So it kind of cooling off to that, you know, just a little bit. And then I'm just, this is what I'm talking about with ideas that come up out of nowhere and then totally change everything I'm doing. So everyone's talking about this music video called Shelter, right? It's this little anime music video put together. It's an A1 Pictures thing. Everyone's like looking at me like, oh, do you hate this because it's A1? It's like one person made this. It's like there's the director and then the animator who animated the whole fucking thing, you know, and then like the musician who made the music. I don't even think it's like, to think of it as an A1 Pictures thing is kind of like besides the point. It's obviously these two people's creation, but nonetheless, I don't really care for it. I think it's fairly trite, and as much movement as there is in the animation, the style of it didn't really interest or impress me. So yeah, I wasn't that into it, but nonetheless, I saw all these people talking about it, and I thought, man, this is a great opportunity to talk about anime music videos, because one of the reasons that my number of completed shows on my anime list is so fucking high is because I watch lots of shorts. I'll go through these phases where I'll just, like, spend a couple days, like, marathoning tons of music videos or other shorts, and I think they're really cool, and, like, they're great ways to see, like, lots of experimental different stuff. Not all of it's good. In fact, not even most of it's good. Most of it's pretty middle of the road. Usually it's like, well, that was kind of cool, I guess, but it was totally pointless and I'll never think about it again. It's pretty rare to get music videos that you actually, like, want to revisit and think are really amazing. But nonetheless, I watch, like, all of them. And so I thought, what if I made a video, like, 10 cool anime music videos you should all check out? Since you're so psyched about this one, here's all these other great ones. So then, of course, I think, well, if I want to do that, I should make sure I know every cool music video. You know, what if I make this video and I totally miss out on, like, the coolest one ever? So I go to my anime list and I sort, you know, by music video, and, like, you know, show me all the completed music videos out there, and there's 10 pages of about 50 shows a page, and I look at that and I think, I bet I could do that. Yeah, 500? I mean, they're only like 3 to 5 minutes a piece, so what's the big deal, you know? Now, I'm skipping all the ones that I can't find, obviously. There's a lot of them that I just straight up can't find. I'm skipping a lot of the ones that are tie-ins to shows, because most of those are awful. It's usually like the opening theme song, and they animated a little thing, and it's always shit. The best ones would be stuff like the Love Live ones where they just make like a music video, but I hate idol shows and I can't get into it at all. I watched the video for Snow Halation and I was like, this sure feels like an idol music video. I mean, it's incredibly well done, but I don't like it. You know, I don't like the music, I don't like idols. So it didn't do much for me, but nonetheless, skipping most of those, and any video that I'm just like, I think is total shit from the start, I'll just stop watching it. But nonetheless, I go down this hole of music videos, and so for like, you know, this is an idea I've just had on a whim, and then 12 hours later, I've been doing nothing but watching videos for 12 hours, you know? I have forgotten to eat or breathe, I'm just sitting there in a chair, you know, watching music videos nonstop. And it's at some point I got to the point where I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm interested enough in this idea to keep going. Like, if this takes more than 3 days, then I feel like the hype from what's it called will have died down enough that like no one will be as open to this. Like, it really felt like something that had to happen now. It had to be a flash in the pan. It had to be completed all at once. So then, as I'm working on this, as I'm watching all these videos, downstairs, Devu is editing Akiyuki Shinbo in the 90s Part 1, and he's finishing it up. So I come downstairs, you know, I think I had him wake me up. I was like, wake me up when it's done. So he wakes me up, you know, after I've slept probably 8 hours after just a non-stop music video binge all night. I come downstairs and I watch Shinbo Part 1. It's great. We you know, workshop it a little bit, fix some things. I upload it. Now, as soon as I started seeing positive reactions to this. Now, mind you, Akiyuki Shinbo in the 90s, I knew from the start, this is a video that's not going to get a ton of views. This is a video that not a ton of people are going to care about. Some people are going to find it boring and stupid. I will be shocked if anyone gets a lot out of it. But the second there was even one comment that was like, this is the kind of stuff I come to you for, or like, wow, such an impressive amount of research, or man, I really learned to appreciate Shinbo's work so much more, and I'm gonna check out some of these shows. It only takes one comment like that to make me like, alright, now we gotta do part 2. You know, like, now we gotta do the next one. I mean, literal part 2 was already in the works of Shinbo in the 90s, but like, Shinbo in the 2000s is a whole other animal. And I was gonna hold off for a little bit because the project is gonna be unbelievably massive. I probably have to watch 100 shows for this project. Like, there's 70 that I definitely have to watch, and those are ranging from, you know, 2 episodes to 26 at the most. So that's, yeah, that's like 70 shows I have to watch no matter what for this project. Now, I don't have to watch all of them before starting the project, before any videos can come out. Like, the way I've been looking at it, I might be able to like gradually put these out over like a long course of time. But nonetheless, this is a Titanic-sized project, and I was gonna just hold off. But the second I got that spark of inspiration, it was like, ugh, I gotta do it. I gotta at least make the preparations for it, you know, because there's a lot of prep work to be done. I have to, basically, mostly it's about organizing all of the data I have, figuring out exactly what I need to watch, why, who worked on it, and what else they worked on. That's basically the basis of it. So I spend probably 6 or 7 hours putting together a list of every show that Shinbo's been involved with from the Soul Taker onwards, and everyone who's worked on more than one of those shows. So if there's a name that appears in the credits of 2 shows that he worked on. Now, I only went for major credits. No one who's just like a key animator or an in-betweener or something. That would be... I mean, what I'm doing is already psychotic, but that would be next level psychotic. I mean, that would be psychotic on a literal level. Like, no one would do that, no matter how... Like, it's just not even a good idea. There's no point to it. But, anyone who's a major staffer, I made the connections and I put together this fucking huge list. And then I spent 2 days of just straight work turning that into a spreadsheet. I have spent 2 entire days turning it into a spreadsheet. And the funniest thing about it is that it was the easiest, most natural thing in the world for me to do. There is nothing that comes more natural to me than making lists and just putting data into boxes. Like, I've often thought that if I, like, if for some reason I had to get a desk job, I'm gonna go for a data entry job, because that shit, I don't know if I'll be as into it if it's not about something I care about, but, like, I am just unbelievably good at zoning out and making a list all night long. I at no point had the thought like, oh, this has to get done today. It was just, I just did it. And like the first day, it was a natural progression, right? Like I finished making my list, and so then I started making the spreadsheet. And then at some point I was too tired to go on and I passed out. I woke up at 11:30 p.m. Or no, what stopped me working on the spreadsheet was I had to record the PCP. Nate was gathering everybody together. He was really, I was too tired. I wasn't going to do it, but he conned me into it. I did the PCP, and then I read some comics, and then I went to bed. Woke up at 11:30 p.m. I sat down in my chair. The spreadsheet was open, and I didn't even like ask myself, do I want to do something else first? I just started working on it, and I didn't stop for 12 hours. That's just it. I just sat down and I worked on it for 12 hours. And it was helped as well by the fact that, like, I've been in sort of a musical slump for most of this year. You know, I'm a big music fan, but I've kind of run out of, like, music that I like, that I'm not sick of. I listen to the same shit over and over and over and over again. I was getting tired of all the stuff I had, and I wasn't finding anything new. I was out there on the prowl. You know, I ask people for recommendations all the time, but nobody knows what I like. So, yeah, I can never find anything new. I haven't liked much of the new stuff coming out this year. So I decided, I was like, I need a revolution. I need to just go out there and start downloading shit en masse and fill my computer. First of all, fill it with all the stuff it's missing, because most of my stuff that I have on my computer is new, because, like, at some point my hard drive died at, like, the start of 2014, and I lost all the music I had, and I just never got it all back. Like, all that I had on my computer was stuff that was on my phone. So anything that was still on the phone is on the computer, and there's, like, certain albums I've gone and, like, re-downloaded it or re-burned it to my computer, but there's, like, whole discographies of bands that I love that I haven't looked into in, you know, the last 2 years. And then also, there's lots of songs that I've accumulated over time that are like singles by bands that I don't really like any of their albums, but I really like that single, but I've never downloaded the albums. I just go to YouTube every once in a blue moon, you know, and listen to it. So I thought I'll download all those discographies too. So I found a reliable Russian torrenting site and just started mass downloading music. And that helped a lot with the spreadsheet making, because listening to a band's entire discography is hard to make time for, unless you're doing a menial task that takes all fucking day and really leaves you with, like, most of your brain space open to listen to music. So I listened to, like, countless hours of Omar Rodriguez Lopez music. That's the guitarist for the Mars Volta, who puts out, he's basically like a light novel artist of music. He puts out stuff fucking constantly. Ever since, like, 2006, he's had at minimum, like, 4 albums a year, And then this year, he's pulling a full-blown Nishiyoi scene and doing an album a month every month all year. The man's crazy. He's not as bad as Buckethead, but he's crazy. So I downloaded like 30 Omar albums, and I was listening to a bunch of those. Then I downloaded like the whole discography of Bad Religion, which is a band who has like 10 singles that I love, and I never heard an album of theirs. So I was listening to their discography, and I gotta say, I was surprised that a lot of it is pretty good. Like, I expected it to just pretty much be the singles, but there's other great songs in there. Those guys are masters of hooks. They write the best hooks in the world. There's so many songs with memorable choruses. It's crazy, because all their songs sound exactly the same, except that they all have a different, awesome, memorable chorus. So I was listening to all that AFI, downloaded their discography, only to realize that the one I grew up with, December Underground, is probably their only good album, but it is a great album. I mean, it was partly nostalgia for me, but that album is fantastic. I didn't remember it being as good as it was when I listened to it just now, and I was like, whoa. Finally downloaded the fucking Mindless Self-Indulgence discography. I haven't had them on my computer since the crash 2 years ago, and immediately I realized Mindless Self-Indulgence might be my actual favorite band, and I just forgotten all this time because I didn't have them on my computer. But my god, I love them so much. And yeah, if you haven't noticed, I'm mostly like downloading stuff that I listened to when I was like a teenager or like a young adult. I'm in that phase in my life where, you know, all like concept of guilt, like guilty pleasures. Like, I mean, I don't believe in guilty pleasures anyway, but like any sort of shame I might have had about something I liked before is gone. I will probably download Linkin Park's discography and give the whole thing a whirl by the end of this week. So expect to hear a lot more of me singing. Like, 'cause there's some great Linkin Park songs. Like, there's some songs that come on the radio when Somewhere I Belong comes on or Faint comes on, I still get excited. So I know there's gems in that discography. I just gotta dig them out, you know. Really, the biggest difficulty of this whole process is gonna be when I have to go through every album by all these bands and try to, like, weed out all the songs I absolutely hate. Because more on that subject, I'm also starting to try and adopt a poptimist mindset, as they call it on Muse. I don't know if it's a meme or if it's like a thing that people actually study, but like you know, I was recently introduced to the YouTuber Todd in the Shadows. I'd heard about him for fucking ever. He's a classic That Guy with the Glasses member. Been around the internet for a very long time. I can't stand That Guy with the Glasses stuff, so I've avoided him. But now that I actually watched him, he's actually really good, and he does these really interesting videos about pop music. And what's most interesting to me about it is that it's pop music, and I hate pop music. So like hearing someone go really in depth about this genre that I have like no interest or experience with is pretty interesting. Like, I feel like he's giving me the opportunity to have opinions about these things or to feel anything about, you know, a musical genre that I would typically avoid. And it's really funny for me when I watch his like top 10 and bottom 10 of the year, because I can't really tell the difference that much in the musical quality. I'm like, it's all just shitty pop music. But nonetheless, he can get me to care about it, to even like root for a song or artist or something like that, you know. But in any case, part of what's interesting about it is that he really goes by song. You know, he's like a song reviewer. He doesn't have album reviews the way that like Anthony Fantano would. And I've always been an album guy. I've always been someone who sits and listens to the whole album. But in the last couple of years, I've felt myself gravitating towards like shorter and shorter albums because I don't have time to listen to whole albums all the time, you know? And part of it was also when I lost all that music, because I've always kept just the tracks I really like on my iPod. You know, like I'm not going to keep the slower songs on there, because if I'm driving, which is why I'm listening to music on my phone, then like I'm not going to want to hear the soft songs. So I just leave them all off. But like now there's a bunch of albums on my computer where I only have the songs I really like. And guess what? I like those albums a lot more now, you know? Like, Sufjan Stevens' album, The Age of Odds, I would consider one of my favorite albums. And the album's like almost 90 minutes long. It's long as shit. And I don't think that it would be one of my favorite albums if I listened to the entire thing every single time. Because I'm not that into the song like Too Much, or the song, God, even the opening track. Like, there's a few tracks from the album that just aren't on my phone. And so, like, I kind of forgot about them until, like, the other day I was listening to the whole album on YouTube, like, to hear those extra songs. And I was like, yeah, I know why I cut these out. Because this is, like, an extra 20 minutes of the album that, without it, the album's easier to listen to. And I'm more likely to listen to it repeatedly and, you know, hear the songs I do like over and over again. So I'm really warming up to this idea of, like, listening to singles, especially because my fucking phone has, this might sound like a lot, but my phone only has 940 songs on it, and it doesn't actually take that long to end up hearing all of it, you know, because Shuffle sucks, and every time it restarts, it just plays you every fucking song you just heard again. And even when you go through it for a while, like, you know, a lot of those are, again, whole albums. So, like, yeah, 941 songs might sound like a lot, but that's really, like, if there's, let's say, 13 tracks an album, less than 90 albums? That still sounds like a lot when I put it that way. But let's just say I've heard those 941 songs many, many times. You know, I rarely update what's on my phone. I rarely take stuff off or put stuff on, so I'm quite used to hearing all of it. And I drive a decent amount. So yeah, like, I'm really in this mindset of it's time to totally change my library. Let's get rid of all the songs I don't care about. Let's put all the songs I like on. And obviously not every song I like is one that I want to listen to constantly, but they do need to be on there, you know, like, I don't exactly throw on Spirit They're Gone, Spirit They've Vanished by Animal Collective when I'm, like, in the car driving down the highway. It's a very, like, contemplative, alone at night song, or album, rather. So, you know, that one's going to stay on the computer, but not likely make it onto the phone. But still, you get what I'm saying. And the reason it's called a Poptimist mindset is, like, on Muse, they talk about how, you know, there's like rockists, people who are into rock music have a tendency to, like, really put all of their emphasis on the album, whereas people who are into pop tend to put emphasis more on the songs. And I do think that something is lost by focusing too much on full albums, because I watch Anthony Fantano's reviews, and sometimes he'll give like an 8 out of 10 to an album that is very consistent and very strong in how it sounds, but, and maybe he feels differently than I do about this anyways, but, like, I'll feel like none of the songs individually stand out. It's like a solid album at having the sound it has, but it's not an album I really want to hear all the time. Whereas there's some albums that if you just take off a couple songs, then all the rest of them are like the best song ever, you know? Like, Acid Rap by Chance the Rapper. Every song on it, with the exception of Smoke Again, is like the greatest song ever written. Smoke Again sucks. I took Smoke Again off of there, like, the album for, like, around when I first discovered the album. And, I've never had a problem. It's always been, like, my favorite album. I just kind of forgot that song is even a part of it. So, like, when you see it up on my favorite albums list, like, just keep in mind the caveat that I have forgotten that Smoke Again is a song on the album. It's not even a terrible song. I just don't like it that much. The album Lady Gaga's Art Pop, like, Manicure, god-awful song. Take that off, great album. I originally had a few more songs off. Gypsy is pretty bad too. Take off Gypsy. But I originally had, like, Mary Jane Holland and what's the other one? Donatella. I originally didn't have those on there, but they worked their way back on, you know? It's not like I'm not open to listening to these songs again and reaffirming whether they belong on my list. Manicure is really bad, though. That's an unlistenable song. But nonetheless, with all that stuff removed, Art Pop's one of my favorite albums. So I do think that there's something to this song-based mindset, and I'd really like to get into it. So aside from all that stuff that's been going on, I also read some comics yesterday. Consider this a response to Jesse's panel cast, because Jesse started up a podcast about reading new comics, and he recommended some cool stuff, and one of them was Gwenpool, which he was talking about it, and he was showing the cover art on screen, and I just thought the character design was super adorable, because it's like this just super bright pink, very like anime-ish art style, and I really liked it. And then in the comments, he had linked someone a page of a Batman comic, but it was on this like comic reader website, and I was like, oh hey, a comic reader website, I wonder if they have Gwenpool. Oh, they do. Oh, Gwenpool only has 7 chapters so far because it's a brand new comic. All the stars are lining up just right. So I read all of Gwenpool, and it was really good. It has these great. It's a comic that plays with the meta of comics in really pretty obvious ways, but effective ways, where it's kind of all about Gwenpool. Like, basically she knows she's in a comic. She used to read comics, and she's like, you know, from our world, and she's taken into this world, and it's about her constantly like. Well, you know what? I won't get too into it because Jesse talks about it in his podcast, but I will talk about what I really liked at the end of Volume 1, is that there's a shit gets real moment that was, like, really intense. And what I liked about it is that it was this villain who is sort of a goofy villain, and Gwenpool doesn't take him seriously because she's like, ha, you know, you're that guy. Like, pff, why would I take you seriously? And then he just, like, vaporizes like her friend right in front of her, and it was shocking because the tone of this comic is mostly pretty lighthearted and upbeat, and this is like right at the end of chapter 1, and it was shocking. But what was cool about it is that it's that villain, because like, yeah, to us who don't have to deal with the consequences of a supervillain's actions, they can just be goofy. But, like, when you think about what is actually happening in the comic, that a person has been vaporized, you know, then it's suddenly like, man, even the goofiest supervillain is murdering people. You know, they are actually murdering people, and that shit is rough, you know. And that's sort of what the lesson of the comic is. It's what Gwenpool is out there to realize, is that, you know, shit is, like... basically, she sees it as, this is a comic, therefore I can't take it seriously, whereas what she has to realize is that for the characters in the comic, it is the real world, and everything is as serious as it would be in the real world. And, you know, the comic is constantly drawing attention to how kind of shit it is to live in the comic book world, especially through the police force, who are all just like, they hate living in this town, and like, why do we have to deal with this every day, you know? And, that's the meta part that I really like about it, you know, and I think that's really what the core of it is. Like, there's lots of just meta humor and jokes that aren't really that funny. It's just kind of whatever, you know, it's just kind of filler dialogue in a way, but the actual core of the intrigue of it is really good. And it's a lot of fun. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the webcomic Strong Female Protagonist, except the Strong Female Protagonist is a lot more serious and a lot more like edgy, where Strong Female Protagonist is like a straight up Watchmen thing. Gwenpool is just fun and lighthearted, and like, even though it has these like kind of deep biting messages, it never loses its tone of just like whimsical and fun. You know, like when big things happen, they tend to happen in like pinpoint shock moments that are quickly over with as we get back to the fun, and I like that about it. It makes it very easy to read, and so yeah, I might go and actually buy the first graphic novel, because it is out, I believe, of the first 6 chapters. So in other news, there was that Kickstarter that happened. I started it probably over a week ago. It's up to $7,000, an incredible amount of money. I'm extremely paranoid about it because the Kickstarter, the income of it is taxable, right? I have to pay taxes on it. And everything's in my name with regard to this Kickstarter. Now, the person who's supposed to get most of this money is Jesse. But in the process of setting, because this Kickstarter kept making more money, I kept adding more goals to it. And I added all these goals about Blu-rays and like how we'll make and send Blu-rays. And I think it's entirely possible that I have like grossly underestimated the shipping cost of shipping all these Blu-rays out, and that I also haven't really accounted for how much of this money might get taken by taxes. So, and then like a lot of the money has to go to flying everybody down, you know, and having them all here for a week. So I don't actually know if there is enough money in the Kickstarter to fund everything that the Kickstarter promises. So I'm concerned about that, but we won't really find out until it's all said and done. Like, I don't know what it's going to cost to ship all these Blu-rays until I know what it costs to ship to each of these people's houses. Hopefully most of them live in the United States, but you never know. It's a mystery to everybody. You know, if it turns out all of them live in Europe, then it could end up racking up quite a hefty fee. But it also could be that I actually allocated more money for it than I realized. Like, I don't know. It's a confusing process. I think I had initially set it so that each DVD goal was like $500, and that most of that would be for mailing, but I don't know if that's enough. So yeah, I'm concerned about that, but at the same time hopeful, because I mean the results of it have been incredible. You know, that it was such a weird moment of like, why didn't we think to do this before? You know, because we just did RadCon 1 at the start of September, and like RadCon, getting it organized was a huge ordeal, you know, because it's 6 people, all have to have time at the same time. We all have to travel, you know, everyone had to figure out how they were going to pay for it. You know, Hippocrit costs $1,000 for a round trip from fucking England. You know, we were pitching in money. I paid like $120 to his ticket, you know, just to help him get over here. And none of us ever thought maybe our audience would just want to see this, you know, maybe. Now, I mean, it would have been harder to prove to our audience what we could do, you know, like what's great about The Plebe and the Weeb is that we already had 3 episodes, so we could say, hey, here's exactly what you're getting if you pay for this, you know. But like, the results were so overwhelming that I really do think, like, maybe we could have done this for the first RadCon, you know. And we had all been taught, like, after RadCon was over, we were all saying, like, this should not be a once-a-year thing. You know, this should definitely happen sooner. We've had too many good projects, good ideas, and we really want to start talking about getting everybody into one place. You know, because Ben and Devu moved in at the time of RadCon, but all of us want to live in proximity to each other, because we've all been saying all this time that, like, if we all lived in proximity, we'd get so much stuff done. There'd be so many projects we could do together, you know, we could really make things come to life. And, like, the point of RadCon was to prove that, and we did prove that. We got lots of great content out of it, you know. We got stuff like the Podcast Live, or Ben's lecture, Ben's lecture is like a totally different genre of video that none of us have done before, or would have thought of. But now that it exists, it's like, this is fucking genius. There needs to be more of this, you know? I'd love to do a classroom thing, you know, as often as possible. Doing The Plebe and the Weeb was something me and Jesse had been planning for years, just because we were like, it won't be the same if we're in different rooms. It just won't be what we're looking for, you know? And now that we have it, it's like, this is what we've been looking for. So, you know, Jesse said pretty early on into RadCon, he was like, I clearly need to move down here, because this is obviously the best career path, you know? Like, if I want to have a successful YouTube career, I need to be around you people. You know, Nate has wanted to get down here for as long as as long as I've known him, you know, but he's trapped by financial insecurity. But he's finished school, so he doesn't have to worry about staying there for school. He's just trapped at his job. And as soon as he can, well, he's not quite finished with school, but he's almost finished with school. And like, once he finishes school, and then, you know, has enough money, then he can leave his job. And he could obviously make more money if he came down here. So, like, RadCon 2 is probably a lot of going to be planning for how we're going to move those guys down here, you know? And I would really love if, like, Jesse and Nate could get a place together. I don't know how soon we could even get Hippo. I don't know if he needs citizenship or, like, a work visa or something. But, like, you know, if we could somehow afford to have everybody move in, then eventually we'll be able to, you know, get everybody... Because I think someone like Nate, who on his own content, he spends so much time, it's definitely hard for him to turn a profit on the kind of content he's making, where every single thing is a 6-month-long project for a 45-minute video. But when he works with other people, we get stuff out all the time. And if we were turning a profit on something like PCP, which the PCP as it stands is a goofy little podcast that's, you know, we vaguely come up with a topic, we all jump into a call, we talk over each other, and it's a nightmare. But, like, the amount of effort that goes into a PCP would not increase that much if we turned it into a live show with a little bit more production. You know, if it was maybe 3 people on a panel and we have a little set and we discuss a more concrete topic and we do that once a month, it might become something that's worth patroning, you know, if we had a Patreon for the PCP. And if, you know, if Nate had a show that he could Patreon, I think he'd probably be able to be a lot more quickly successful than he's gonna get with these super long, you know, video projects. And so that's why I really want everyone living in one place, because I think we will all make a lot more money this way, you know. Ben, by all rights, should be making more money, because I keep offering him art things to do, but he keeps not doing them. But nonetheless, he does have the opportunity. Devu is obviously going to make a hell of a lot more money living with me, because we can get videos done quicker. I mean, if he didn't live with me, we would not have been inspired for this 15 videos in a month thing, of which 6 are already written. So guaranteed, you know, next month we are going to make a shitload of money. Like, even if I don't write any more videos after this point, I've already got enough that, you know, we will have a very successful time ahead of us. So yeah, I think everything's coming up really well, and it's kind of like I'm watching a bunch of plans that I've had for so long that have always felt so far away suddenly come into sharp relief, you know? It's like all at once earlier this year, in around like the area of July to August, like my channel suddenly spiked in growth, and my Patreon suddenly spiked in growth, and then my parents decided to move out, and then we built a studio in my house, and then Ben and Devu decided to move in, and it's like, these are all things that I always thought were going to happen eventually, and then they did, and it's like, holy shit. Well, now it's time for all the other things that we've wanted to happen eventually to happen, you know? When are we going to stop talking about getting Nate down here and just get Nate down here? You know, when are we going to stop saying Jesse needs to move out of his house and somehow find a way for him to move out of his house? You know, like, it could be happening soon, and I feel like this Kickstarter really gave us the opportunity to start making those considerations. That, like, you know, after RadCon, we were all like, well, I don't know when we'll be able to do this again. When will we once again have $1,000 to fly Hippo down? You know, that's a crazy amount of money. But now we have it. All of a sudden, we have it. Now it's just like, oh, well, apparently RadCon 2 is going to be in January. Let's buy everybody's ticket to get down here, and when we're here, we could talk about how we're going to make this happen again, you know? Next time, it doesn't need to be a Kickstarter. It could just be that we have money, you know? Maybe we're not capitalizing well enough on how much, like, clout we have, you know, that clearly there's some part of our audience who cares a lot about getting us, you know, getting to see us do things together. And we should be taking advantage of it in the best way, not in the way that could be taken. Well, I guess that's most of what's been on my mind. I felt pretty comfy on this couch. This beer has gotten warm in my hand as I've been barely sipping it between long sections of tirade. But, yeah. This was a good way to decompress. I feel it. I feel like I just spent an hour on something that wasn't staring blankly at a spreadsheet and blasting mid-2000s music that I used to listen to. So I got done everything I wanted to get done with this, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope if you like this idea for a podcast, let me know. You know, if you think this is something that you like really want to see more of, then let me know. If it's more of a passive, I don't really care this way or that, yeah, it was fun, but whatever, then I will be less likely to ever do it again. But if it's something that people are like, holy shit, this is a revelation in podcasting technology, then I'll probably do another one. Alright. Bottoms up. Have a good night of drinking and resting. And let's play us out with some nice, chilled out tunes.